October 26th, Sunday, Luke 18, 9 to 14. In today's parable, the two prayers offered by the men, the Pharisee and the tax collector, reflected their faith. The tax collector knew he had transgressed the Old Testament law and prayed for God's grace and forgiveness. The tax collector respected God's holy law and expressed true sorrow for his sins. He does not look up or mention any good things he has done to justify or offset his sins. He prays that God would be more merciful and by faith believes that justification would not come by his own actions but by God's grace. He wisely approached God as a sinner and humbly asked for mercy. In sharp contrast, the Pharisee was not aware his own actions were displeasing to God. His pride, self-righteousness, contempt for others, and failure to be a religious leader who teaches and exemplifies God's grace made him ill-positioned to receive God's commendation. Perhaps most grievous is that many common practices of first-century Pharisees prohibited tax collectors and the lame from having access to the temple and symbolically access to God. Sinners were held in contempt while self-righteous Pharisees touted their own accomplishes and divided humanity into the righteous, the few who were like them, and the unworthy sinners. The Pharisee approached God in pride as one who was better than most and focused on his goodness and how he deserved God's blessing. Surprisingly, the parable notes how outcasts, the adulterers, or even like the tax gatherers, can be forgiven and live a life of honor if they approach God, realizing that righteousness is found in God. Our salvation and justification is not earned via our good deeds. It is an expression of God's grace. Jesus noted that two prayers were prayed in the temple. The tax collector prayed for God's grace and forgiveness. His prayer is simple but passionate. He thanked God and asked God to be merciful. The imagery of the man stooped in shame, beating his breast and pushing through lines of tradition to enter the temple to approach God speaks to the condition of his heart and desire to live a life pleasing to the Lord. Like Abel's offering in Genesis chapter 4, the tax collector's prayer pleased the Lord. The Pharisee prayed in a way that indicated a lack of spiritual awareness. His posture indicates pride and that he held others with contempt. His prayer reflected self-righteous thinking, a lack of awareness of his own sin, and a wrongful assumption that good deeds, and being a descendant of Abraham, guaranteed acceptance by God. His prayer centered on his merit, his assessment that he was better than the tax collector, and a notable absence of thanking God for his blessings. Jesus declared that God accepted the tax collector's prayer for mercy and grace, and that he returned to his home justified. God rejected the Pharisees' prayer as it was judged empty and self-serving. Dear friends, in this parable, earnestness trumped eloquence, and a contrite heart trumped the ability to commend themselves. Wishing you a holy Sunday, Father Paul from Goa.